Welcome back to Unleashed with Mark Morano on TNT. All right, joining the program now, back by popular demand, Donna Jackson serves as membership director of membership development for Project 21, a Black Leadership Network, and a seasoned public accountant. Welcome back to the program, Donna. Happy to have you here again.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
All right, well, let's start with a rather bizarre story in the news. The Washington Post today is reporting, this is after the Associated Press, Reuters, hyping the Summer Olympics in Paris as the greenest Olympics ever. They were going to deny our elite athletes in a sweltering heat this summer in Paris access to air conditioning in order to lower the carbon footprint of the Olympic Games. Not making that up. And they said we had to trust the science. They were going to allow rooms to get up to near 80 degrees Fahrenheit. So the question is, how do you think that played with the athletes? I can answer that real quick. Today's Washington Post, Don, I'd like to get your reaction. This is actually what they wrote. I'm quoting the Washington Post, declared the air conditioner-free goal of the greenest Olympics ever in Paris has taken a farcical turn. This is the Washington Post word, as portable air conditioning units will be everywhere per athletes' demands. These are the world's elite athletes coming to compete in the summer heat from all over the world, and they're being told by Parisian officials that the Olympic Village will not have air conditioning because they're trying to have the greenest Olympics ever. And of course, the athletes aren't having it. The Washington Post surveyed 20 of the largest countries competing. Every single country they talked to, including the United States, Australia, all said we're either flying in or shipping in or renting window unit air conditioners, which are less efficient than had France just put in the regular. What is your reaction to that? Should the athletes suffer and sweat it out after a day of competition and lose a night's sleep in order to save the planet? Aren't we all in this together, is my question. Why are the athletes so selfish? Why are these selfish athletes demanding air conditioning, is my question to you.
Well, you know what? If you want these athletes to actually perform, they need to be comfortable. They don't need to die from heat ventilation because they're exhausted before they even start their athletic competitions. So, for health reasons, these athletes need air conditioners, but guess what? That's the same reason all Americans, all people all over the world need energy. Stories like this is not uncommon. When I was in California, they would blame climate change because of this heat and these elderly people that would pass away. Now, and in the bottom, buried in the story, you would read that it was actually because they couldn't pay their electric bill and because they didn't have air conditioning is why they really died. Electricity, air conditioning, heat actually saves lives. It doesn't take away people's lives. And the fact of the matter is, all of these people that want you to go without don't want to go without themselves. I mean, the Washington Post was sitting in their air-conditioned building writing a story about the green agenda and not living by the same green agenda that they want the athletes to live by. That in itself is ridiculous. I think this is all a part to control people's lives. It's not going to work. And even athletes realize they need air conditioning.
Yeah, and it's not just, this isn't a one-off. There's a war on air conditioning from this whole net zero green climate agenda. You have Colorado, the utility companies cutting off people's ability to make their house cooler during a heat wave. You have in Europe and Spain, the government controlling the thermostats. Again, 79 degrees Fahrenheit. They can't go cooler. But probably the most absurd, the New York Times claimed that people would not be able to travel because the heat is so bad in all the travel destinations that they're going to have to stay home and hunker around their air conditioner because that's how bad global warming is getting. But if you flip that around, the LA Times, the other coast, doesn't want people to use air conditioning in their homes. Let me ask you this. For equity, they're suggesting that people not be allowed. The LA Times editorial, this is from last summer, want people to go to cooling centers. A city bus would pick you up at your home. You would be banned from using your home air conditioner. It would take you to a local cooling center, like a school gymnasium, and there you would sit out the hottest parts of the day in order to lower the carbon footprint and meet the net zero goals. What is your thought on that? Again, this is the LA Times. These are the major organs of the elite society proposing this.
Well, it's not really a war on air conditioning. It's a war on people and the population. And they just really hate people and they want to get rid of them. When they're sitting there talking about having a bus, an air conditioner bus, take you to a cooling center, sounds so much like, them putting people in trains and taking them to gas chambers. I mean, this is really a dark situation that they're proposing here, because it really does sound like they really want to get rid of people, and this is their way to do it. Air conditioners save lives. That's why we have air conditioning units. Refrigerators save people's lives. Heat saves people's lives. They keep talking about humans being destroying the planet because of their carbon footprint. Well, you know what? There was a time where there was no humans and there were dinosaurs, and guess what? They still had catastrophes. So they didn't have cars. People had horses. Things like this. It's so crazy, but this is all about controlling people's lives and really just depopulating the earth. That's what they want. They hate people. They want to get rid of everybody so that they can have all these vast lands, so that only they can enjoy it. And these same people don't want to give up their private jets and their stretch limousines and their 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 square feet houses. If they really want people to suffer, why don't you start first? And then let the rest of us make our own decisions. But the fact is, we need air conditioners to save people's lives.
Well, I thought it ironic that the New York Times said people can't travel because it's too hot. They need to stay home and hunker around the air conditioner. But the LA Times and the other coast was arguing that you shouldn't be able to stay home. You need to go to a cooling center because you could lower the carbon footprint. And they also called, by the way, for planned blackouts in order to meet climate goals. But when you have the New York Times saying, stay home, use your air conditioner, the LA Times saying, no, you got to go to a cooling center, it reminds me, there's a battle between the East Coast and the West Coast. Kind of reminds me of the old East Coast rappers versus the West Coast rappers.
West Coast rappers.
Do you remember who won that battle? What kind of fight was it? Was that a gun battle? Who won that?
You know who won it? The South did. Because the East Coast and the West Coast destroyed each other. And maybe that's it. The red states will win in the end of the day because they're the only ones that use some common sense. But the truth of the matter is, it's crazy. The LA Times and the New York Times, I can't emphasize enough, say that in their cushy, air-conditioned office.
Yes.
Telling other people how to live. If you really believe that, you should be the one setting the example by sweating it out in your building. But they're not. They're sitting there in their comfortable offices, comfortable homes, telling everybody else what they shouldn't have. And that's wrong. We have abundance of resources. That's the thing. This earth has an abundance of resources. If we have scarcity, it's because they are creating it, not because we don't have the abundance of it, but they're withholding it from average American people. And why do they need to do this? I mean, their primary concern is with their own selfishness, because it's really selfish to think that you're going to have a planned blackout. The first thing I'm thinking of, what about sick people in their homes that may have oxygen tanks? What about sick people in their homes that may have babies? I mean, they're willing to kill people because there's a lot of people that need electricity in their homes because of health concerns. And you are really putting people in danger when you're sitting there withholding the viable electricity, energy sources for people to live. The reason why our population exploded like it did is because of these technologies, and they want to take them away for the express purpose of making sure that people don't have access because they don't like people. I hate to say that, but it's horrible. But it's the truth. I mean, I wish they would turn on my air conditioning.
Now, you said the word, we talked about blackout. There's been a movement, and as an African American, are you offended when people say blackout? Are you offended when people say blacklist? Are you offended if people call it Black Friday? Because there's a whole movement of language equity, I guess you would call it, that think that this is derogatory to African Americans and Black Americans. Would you like to see those kind of words banished from our vocabulary?
You know what? The same people that are talking about equity don't have a problem calling me the N-word because I say I'm a conservative. These are the same people that sit down there and call me Uncle Tom or I'm not Black because I don't vote the way they want me to. I mean, the same people that are sitting there talking about equity are the same people that are sitting there trying to get rid of Clarence Thomas, that are trying to get rid of Byron Donalds, that are calling Tim Scott Uncle Tim. You know, if you want to talk about equity, if you want to talk about respect, then respect people's opinions to have their own, to decide who they want to vote for, to decide the morals that they want to have. But, you know, all of this, just this kind of, I'm trying to prove that I'm better than everybody else. But you know what? These same people are the ones that create policies that help hurt minority communities the most. You want to give me equity? Get out of my way and let me have a financial future.
All right. We have to take a break. We're talking with Donna Jackson of Project 21. We'll be right back. I want to ask you about how any conservative or Republican can support a man convicted of 34 felonies. Unprecedented. We will talk about that when we come back and the effect on the 2024 election. This is Unleashed with Mark Morano on TNT. Stay tuned. More with Donna Jackson after these messages.